Welcome to Fintech Talks. My name is Sanjib. I'm so excited to be here today with Avinash. Avinash, would you mind please introducing yourself?
Lovely to be here. I'm Avinash Chidambaram. I'm the founder and CEO of Cybrid,
Mm-hmm.
which is a stable orchestration platform. And that's what we do.
Oh, that's great. Can you talk a little bit about your background?
Yeah, for sure. So my background, I started out in engineering, doing some hardcore low-level engineering at places like Nortel.
Mm.
And then, a couple of years after that, I was like, I got to get out of here and started working at startups. Eventually, I landed at BlackBerry, where I was responsible for doing payments globally
Mm.
and identity in 138 countries.
Mm.
So that was my first experience of trying to figure out how do you do a payment in Germany relative to Indonesia? How do those people like to interact with money?
Yeah.
How do they like to do that on a phone? And then, obviously after BlackBerry, I landed in a place called Interac, which is a debit network in Canada. I run a product there called eTransfer,
Mm.
which is exactly like Zelle. It's a bank-to-bank PAP transfer service, and then my job was to extend that for businesses. And then Apple came to Canada at the time,
Mm.
and so my job was to figure out how to build a token platform and tokenize debit
Mm.
transactions
Yeah.
so that people can do debit transactions at point of sale on their phones.
Okay.
That was my first experience and exposure to tokenized payments at a core level.
Yeah.
And I lasted for a short time there after we launched Apple Pay in Canada, and then I decided I needed to do a startup again.
Yeah.
So back into fintech, doing embedded lending, and then frankly, after we exited that business, I have a brother who lives in Japan,
Mm.
and he had his first child, and
Mm.
I was like, this is my brother. I gotta send him some stuff.
Yeah.
And so I logged into my phone and I was trying to figure out how do I send money to Japan. And it's
Mm.
actually impossible from the TD Bank app to do
Mm.
this. So I called him, like, I'm just going to send you some crypto. And at the
Mm.
time it was Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't know what that is. I'm like,
Yeah.
don't worry, I'm going to help you out. And I
Yeah.
walked him through the process. And then when I sent it, like we're on the phone
Yeah.
and he got it instantly. It was like
Yeah.
he got digital cash in his pocket
Wow.
30 seconds after I'd sent it
Yeah.
on the other side of the world. So if you've been in payments for a while in this four-party model, like with Visa, et cetera, which is really like a six-party model because there's lots of layers payments, then that feels kind of special.
Yeah.
And so that was the genesis of us starting this business 3 years ago. And so we started thinking about how can we enable people to essentially send digital cash or
Yeah.
cryptocurrencies, whether it's lightning payments or stablecoin payments to each
Yeah.
other. And that's how we started to build out the business and started to grow it.
Oh,
And of course, it's grown exponentially, like 5x every year for the last few years.
oh.
And now the market has kind of understood that this is a great place to do payments in and a great way to do payments.
Yeah.
And there's regulatory clarity through things like the GDSI.
Yeah.
We're seeing that around the world, right?
Mm.
In Europe, in Singapore, in Canada, there's legislation that's coming out all the time on how you can create stable coins in those jurisdictions, in those currencies.
Yeah. Well, it never occurred to me till now, but I think you're at the intersection of fruit and payments between BlackBerry payments and Apple payments.
Yeah. And I'm going to continue that analogy. So, as an example, we do B2B payments, and there's quite a few people who, the market there's a lot of interest in this market.
Yeah.
And so typically you'd say, you give me some cash, I'm going to convert it to stable coins, and I'm going to send it to someone. And so in the fruit or perishable goods market, that becomes really important because you want to, so typically, and this is a learning that we had, you have buyers who go out there and say, I like this crop that you're getting. I'm going to buy this from you.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it has to go into fridge trucks or freezer trucks and get shipped. But what we're finding and talking to businesses in that space is once that decision has been made, it goes off into a back office and then they need to look at an order form, approve it, go create transactions, send transactions. Nothing's getting shipped until money shows up.
Yeah.
And what people are using our orchestration platform or a programmable orchestration platform is they say, well, now when the buyer sends a document saying I've purchased this, you can programmatically and instantly send that payment using stablecoins anywhere in the world. So you've dramatically compressed the operational overhead and then enable people to deliver perishable goods in a time frame that matters.
Yeah.
So it's like a real use case of how stablecoins have actually made it so that you can pay almost instantly from the decision.
Yeah.
As opposed to someone's made a decision and then it goes through a whole bunch of internal processes and eventually someone sends a wire from bank, which might take even more days for it to arrive at the shipper. So for perishable goods, like that's an obvious place for people speed up payments.
That's a fascinating example. And what would someone who's working on like the payments for that fruit company need to do before versus now?
So before you take a document, you say, has this document from my buyer, have they actually made this purchase? Do I see a PO that matches for this purchase?
Yeah.
Once that's done, they'll go onto a system and say, I'm going to authorize this payment to go and send this payment to the supplier of ours.
Yeah.
And typically that gets done by a payables clerk.
Yeah.
And then that goes to a CFO or someone who will once a week say, what are all my payments that I need to authorize?
Yeah.
Do these make sense? Does my team confirm that this lines up with the data that I'm seeing in my ERP that says I need to buy this stuff?
Yeah.
And then they authorize it. And then banks, it goes back to the payables clerk who will issue a bunch of wires and then the payments will start to go out and then lands whenever you figure out it's going to land.
Yeah.
So contrast that to, we're here right now in an environment in which ERPs have agents built in. The buyer sends his buying instructions or his purchase back to the home office.
Yeah.
They match it automatically to a PO because your AI systems can do that.
Yeah.
And it can initiate a payment through our infrastructure to make that payment over stablecoins near instantly from their stablecoin treasury.
Yeah.
And if their treasury is in US dollars, we can convert it from US dollars to stablecoins in 3 minutes.
Okay.
Because we're directly connected to issuers like Circle.
Yeah.
And then that payment is sent. And when the recipient, the shipper, it comes to their wallet, the blockchain says that guy received his money.
Yeah.
It's ready to go get shipped.
Yeah.
So you can follow up and say, you've received the money, now ship me my goods.
Yeah.
And you've just, orchestrated and automated a whole bunch of flows and functions that typically take a bunch of time and cost time and money for you to actually pay your suppliers.
That's fascinating. And I'd imagine that, the flip side of that is that you need to have like airtight trust and fraud protections and all those kinds of things, right?
Absolutely. So like we tend to do a lot of consulting with some of our larger players because like I said, like people are trying to figure out how do I put stablecoins into our business?
Yeah.
And so what we do is we sort of show up and say like, here, tell us what your processes are and we'll show you which part of your processes, typically when it comes to payments, we can speed up. Then there are some parts of your process that you should decide, can you speed up using tooling that you are aware of? But at the API level of where our platform works, like think of it as like a valve.
Yeah.
If a condition is correct, the valve is open and a payment is made.
Yeah.
And you typically know who your suppliers are. So you typically have already decided, here are the suppliers I want to pay.
Yeah.
It's already in your ERP.
Yeah.
And now you're making that whole process go much faster because you're not using traditional rails, you're not using wires, you're not using intermediaries.
Yeah.
You're making it so that from your ERP, you can use a programmable function to immediately pay a supplier over stablecoins because now they accept in stablecoins.
And I've heard, from conversations with technologists that like with this new era with like AI, like they're rather than thinking in terms of APIs, they're thinking in terms of like workflows.
Yeah. So, what we find is like people are starting to use multiple agents to sort of say, here's my workflow, here's my SOP that I've already defined. Now, how do I automate parts of it?
Yeah.
And then where do I need to have an individual make a decision on money?
Yeah.
So, what we're doing is we have created infrastructure that allows you to be very confident. There's no AI that's running in our infrastructure to actually send and receive funds.
Yeah.
That happens outside of our what we do.
Okay.
But once you've decided that you want to make a payment, we can guarantee that payment is received by your recipient in a matter of minutes. Whereas traditionally it used to take days and sometimes you wouldn't know.
Yeah.
So that knowledge, gets fed back into the ERP and it helps you run a more efficient business.
Yeah.
And so what we tend to do is we say, hey, we're a B2B platform. You have this orchestration layer that's programmable. Now, let us help you figure out how to use it to make it make sense in the context of your operations.
Yeah.
So if you were doing like a simple remittance flow, that's pretty straightforward. You take money from your bank account, we convert to stablecoins, we send it to a cloud provider, it's delivered. You didn't have to touch anything. You just did marketing and everything else was taken care of by us.
Yeah.
If you're in a B2B flow, you can say, I want to use stablecoins because I want to make my payments faster. I want to pay my fruit supplier in Mexico. And then if you start going into higher value functions like freight forwarders, now that's a big one for us. Nothing gets shipped from your container unless you pay for that container. So you can move a container to a shipping port and then you start paying what's called demurrage fees.
Yeah.
Every day they charge you $1,500 because you're holding this space in the port.
Yeah.
Because they're waiting for payment.
Yeah.
but there's a document that shows up that says my container is at this port. They email it to you.
Yeah.
So you should be able to look at that email and go, damn, my container is at the port. I should pay that guy.
Yeah.
And you just save yourself $1,500.
Yeah.
And there's $3.6 trillion of these demurrage fees a year just from people not paying each other fast enough.
Wow.
So when you look at those kinds of environments of say, wow, like our programmable program makes it really easy for people to save a ton of money and not have it sitting around held in a bunch of banks, not doing anything. And that's what people are using us for. So there's like the core use cases that we've seen, the remittance use cases, like I want to pay my bills faster use case. And then now we're starting to see these higher functions and more integration into these ERPs and more complicated businesses because you can move money fast. And that saves money and that drives revenue.
Is shipping and like trade, is that like one of the biggest areas for Cybrid is used? Or?
I mean, it's an area that we focus on. Like we're a platform. And so we say, hey, we're a programmable platform, right? You can have lots of businesses that run on AWS, and then you kind of decide what's the best ways to do it. And then as now we're seeing that, our B2B service is being used by more of these kinds of businesses, we build more capabilities into our platform for them.
Okay.
So from a cross-border perspective, sending money quickly to receive goods, so we'll call it freight forwarding or shipping, that's an obvious place for us to spend time and effort in, and it saves real money. Like it's bottom line for most of the businesses that we're bringing speaking to.
That's very cool.
But because we're a platform, we also have banks who come to us and say, hey, there's a ton of clarity now that I can offer this capability. I want to, like, where do most B2B businesses pay their bills? They pay it from their bank. So when we see like, hey, stable coins went from like 3 trillion to 6 trillion, so like 180 trillion left of volume that is going through traditional infrastructure. And so another big part of our business is working with banks who are coming to us and saying, we're banking guys. We built infrastructure and deployed it inside banks from our experience and my experience in particular. So we're very confident about doing that. And now we're taking our software and they're being deployed right next to deposit accounts at banks. And they're saying, I need to go and offer this functionality, this cross-border B2B functionality to my customers. Because now I'm confident that if someone takes USDC and sends it to a wallet of their supplier, I can understand the compliance regime around it. I can understand how to go and deliver it. And oftentimes they're also saying to us, I'm going to send it to the wallet of another bank. Because they themselves are avoiding the intermediaries that they have to go and contract with. And so we say, hey, we built this programmable platform. Tell us how you want to use it. And we work with customers to go and implement it.
Wow. And like as far as the types of banks that, like, I mean, are you seeing sort of a broad?
Yeah, so it's massive broad interest, right? So obviously we heard from the JP Morgans and the Citibanks. And we have a couple of top 10 banks in North America who are working with us. And then we also have community banks who are saying, hey, I have a group of, I bank agriculture businesses. I have a group of people who are focused in banking, this demographic of people. So can I offer additional value to them? Because one of the challenges that banks are really thinking about now, and why they're talking to us about things like tokenized deposits, is there's leakage out of their deposit base. I think I was mentioning this to you once before. Like we have a customer who's going to do $400 million worth of transactions. This is one customer, and they hold the majority of their treasury in stablecoins. So this is a decent sized business that used to hold tens of millions of dollars in deposits at the bank, and now they've chosen to hold it in a stable coin. And so that's leakage out of the bank. So that affects other parts of the bank, right? Now you're starting to affect your credit business. It's not like a cheapo payments business that the bank doesn't want to spend any money on. And so now they're coming to us and saying, how do we figure out how to keep this and provide the functionality here? Which is why a lot of banks talk about things like, can I tokenize a deposit? Because then presumably I can continue to lever it and lend it. And there's some challenges with that. Like if you move tokenized deposits inside the bank, that's easy. But if it's outside the bank, then someone else has to accept your tokenized deposits, and then you have to settle under the hood. Which is what the clearinghouse does for the big 16 banks in the US. And then if it's like to another bank in another country, that's probably not going to happen unless you're using a stable coin like Circle. So they're thinking through that strategy, and because we've kind of built a bunch of banking infrastructure, we work with them to help them think about what's the right use case to put together.
Yeah.
Now, comfortable are you in doing cross-border payments? Now that the risks are much better understood by the CRO at the bank, like every CRO at a bank now has a stablecoin strategy.
Wow, well, that's quite an onion to peel after your brother had a baby.
I mean, yeah, they're grown now. They're not babies.
I want to ask you a little bit about your experience at Fintech Meetup.
Oh, man. So we've gone for a few years, and there's two things that have been amazing for us, right? So one is, when you think about early on in these journeys and you're trying to understand how is this market evolving, the best place to go find other people who are thinking about the thing that you're now going to spend the next 10, 15 years of your life on is to go to Fintech Meetup, because that's where they exist, and they are also there to meet other people. And so that was one experience that we had. Is like when we go down there, we find other, I wouldn't call them competitors, like other people in the space, people who are issuing coins, people who are looking at other use cases. And we talk about how are we building and how are we using this, this new technology. So I highly encourage you, like, go find others in your space, go talk to them and just learn and talk about this. And the other thing that we've done is we've kind of, and now as we've grown up, take this focus of like, let's go and talk to as many potential customers, potential partners, bank partners as we can, and line it all up. And like the great thing about Fintech Meetup is people show up expecting to go and fill their calendar with meetings and then have good meetings. So oftentimes they'll come with their strategy or what they want to get out of it. You come with yours, but it's like you get so much more done by going to a Fintech Meetup, setting up your calendar and actually meeting these people and having really good conversations than kind of emailing back and forth and hoping you get a Zoom call. So like, it's like orders of magnitude more better outcomes because you're there, you're talking about exactly what you care about, and you're meeting someone who cares about the same thing.
Absolutely. And what advice might you give someone who's thinking about attending Fintech Meetup?
Two things. Like now, again, now for us, we really want to prepare. I think you get less out of it. Like you can get a lot out of it actually if you go down there and you go there to learn. Like there's obviously a ton of great content there. But then the advice I give is to sort of think about what you want to get out of it. This is where you're going to go to find other experts. You're going to definitely find other people who are in your space, other people who've tried what you're trying to do. So think about what you want to get out of it, go and arrange those meetings, and then go down there to have them, because that's the whole point, Gone to other conferences where there's not a lot of meetings. This one is much more valuable because you're getting these meetings, whether it's customer meetings, partner meetings, bank meetings. It's been much more productive.
No, that's great. And I wanted to sort of close out a little bit with, you mentioned you started off your career at Nortel. And when I graduated from college, I interviewed for Nortel as well too. And I remember, it was like, getting that corporate job was like, was a great thing. A great way to start.
My dad said, I'm done.
I've
done everything. He's going to have an amazing pension and retire and take care of me. Doctor, engineer, lawyer.
You
got
it too. And so how, since you've been an entrepreneur multiple times, how has that changed your outlook on life for you?
So I was very fortunate that even when I was in a large corporation, when you work on things like Apple Pay, there's hundreds of millions of people that are going to touch it and use it. It feels very good. But I find that the entrepreneurship bug keeps dragging me back in because, small things that you're doing can have outsized impacts if you find the right area to focus on. And the impact is spread across the organization. We were 10 people that were growing like crazy and making meaningful impacts to other people's businesses, which is a little bit different than I work at this giant bank and I happen to be working on this project, obviously also impactful and feels great. It's very, very satisfying, but it just feels a little bit different because you kind of incubated a baby kind of thing and grown it to something bigger. It's like, it's like your child.
I definitely relate to that. And I think for me, one of the things that I love about startups is that like, the distance between what's in your mind versus what you're able to make into reality is very short.
Yeah.
Whereas like a lot of times in larger organizations, there's a lot more hurdles to
Yeah, you have to sell your idea. You have to think about your ROI. And like now the entire ROI of our business is this idea.
Yeah.
And we think that it has real value. We've gotten some market validation.
Yeah.
Now our customers are saying, I really like this idea. And so that feels so much more special, right? Like every morning you're thinking about a capability to add to a customer immediately. And there's no like process that you'd have to go through to go do that.
And
I still suspect that we're going to grow to a space, to a size, like, when we're deploying software inside banks, then they start to look at us like, you got to be like one of those big players that we expect you to be. So I imagine that sort of stuff will start to happen to us, but our hope is that we can be aggressive in delivering value and innovation to our customers.
I have no doubt that you'll be able to do that. And I wish you the best of luck on
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Looking forward to seeing you at FintechTalks.
Same here, Avinash.
I appreciate it. Thank you.